Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth.
Fuck! When's your due date? Right now! Is your due date 11? What? How many times have you been pregnant? 3! This is your 3rd pregnancy?
Yes!
You have 2 babies
It's
at
in
home?
my ass!
You have 2 babies at home? Who's your doctor?
Lang is her doctor. Y'all treat all your patients like this or just the black ones?
Okay, this is lacrista, I have a patient for you. Alright, last name is Jones. She's G3P2. I'm not sure when her due date is.
Her due date
I
is
just
the
said
10th.
it was the 10th. I think her due date's the 10th.
She got 3 pregnancies, 2 babies at home. I bet y'all listen next time. When you found out you was delivering at this hospital, your ass should have changed doctors.
Thank you.
Everybody say how they treat people here.
The first part of this morning's briefing originates in Greg Abbott's Texas. The white woman in this video is Lacrista Vaughn. She is, or perhaps was, a registered nurse at Dallas Regional Medical Center. And as you saw, she totally ignored the excruciating pain that this black woman, Carrie Jones, was in. Now, Miss Jones is the mother of 2 children at the time of this video, and she was in labor with her 3rd. She was only minutes away from delivering, but Vaughn was acting as if she was there for the common cold. And that's not because she didn't know. Obviously she did. And even her mother is saying, do you treat everyone like this or just the black patients? Less than 15 minutes later, Miss Jones delivered a baby boy. And from the video, she, the mother, and the grandmother appeared to be well. Now, you got to keep an eye on cases like this, because keep in mind, when pregnant women are put through unnecessarily traumatic birthing processes like the one you just saw, what happens is there can be major problems for them that they're not immediately aware of, and the same goes for the child. Now, you won't be surprised to learn that this isn't the first time that this Vaughn woman was caught doing mess like this. In 2023, she did pretty much the same thing, only this time with a black male patient.
You can go ahead and turn your phone off too, please.
I can record. I'm in a public place.
Recording everything that you're doing. So.
That's fine. That's fine. All right.
Yeah, look at the treatment.
So that's at least 2 documented incidents that this woman's been involved in. You heard what she was saying. Turn off the camera, as if she has some sort of control over that. That means she knows exactly what she's doing. She didn't want anybody having this moment preserved for posterity's sake. Now, there have been people who have said that this Vaughn creep has been fired, that she lost her state license and all the rest of it, but there's also people saying that she hasn't been fired. And Dallas Regional Medical Center hasn't confirmed either way. I haven't been able to verify it either, and in Greg Abbott's Texas, I'd say it's even money whether this heifer is still working in the same place that she was. The chances are excellent that she could very well still be employed there, or she's been transferred quietly somewhere else. We know how white supremacy does it. Whether it's the police, or racist teachers, or racist medical practitioners, these people don't get fired, they just get transferred. And this is yet another example of how the problem isn't that these medical practitioners are not trained how to treat black patients. The problem is this is how they're trained to treat black patients. They are taught to ignore black people in clear medical distress. They are taught to ignore and disregard their own medical knowledge and training, but only when it relates to black patients. If you're dealing with a black patient, well, there's nothing wrong with them. This is an opportunity for you to get away with something. The problem isn't that they don't know what to do. It's that this is what they have decided they're going to do when the patient is black. And it's not just the racist nurses and doctors. It's also the administrators and the lawmakers as well. How many times have we caught some white racist running for political office and it turned out they were a medical doctor? These murders aren't happening in a vacuum. It's happening because it's sanctioned and protected by the state. And in many cases, these racist physicians go from killing black patients in medical offices to killing black patients in political offices. But this incident with this Vaughn woman, that's not the reason that I made this the subject of this morning's briefing. There was another case far more egregious that will make your blood boil. Yes, it's going to be that kind of morning briefing. This was DeMarcus Page. He was only 2 years old. He was brought to Advent Health Ocala Hospital in March 1st, 2024. This is in Ron DeSantis' Florida. At the time, he was diagnosed with a virus and dangerously low levels of potassium. He was given intravenous fluids to help with his low electrolyte levels, and the next morning he was transferred to Shands Teaching Hospital and Clinics in Gainesville, Florida. He was then administered electrolyte replacement therapy, but the next day, a Dr. Jiabi Chen unconscionably ordered that the boy be given 10 times the level ordered the previous day, which had been calculated based on his size, weight, and that day's lab results. Chen errantly ordered the extremely high dosage, deleting a critical decimal point in the day's prior dosage of 1.5 millimoles, now ordering the liquid supplement to be given at 15 millimoles twice a day. This was on top of the 2 other forms of potassium that DeMarcus was already receiving through IV and Pedialyte. And before anyone tries to claim, well, this was just one negligent doctor, nobody else on the medical team or the pharmacist caught the error, despite a red flag warning in the hospital's pharmacy system that alerted them to the excessive dosage. So as you see, the doctor gave what she should have known was too high a dosage. But even the hospital's own pharmacy computer system alerted them that the dosage was too high, and yet this got overlooked by multiple people. On March 3rd, 2024, DeMarcus went into cardiac arrest caused by that overdose. But the malpractice didn't even stop there, because the staff bungled the response and carried out 2 to 3 failed attempts to intubate DeMarcus, and there were at least 20 minutes that passed since the code blue was called, during which time he remained severely deprived of oxygen. This led to the baby suffering a massive brain injury, forcing him to spend the next 2 weeks enduring a horrific and protracted hospital course on a ventilator with nothing but seizures going on, before finally being taken off life support. Can you imagine what it must be like for that family to have brought their child in alive and then be in a situation where they had to say, end this child's life? His family is suing, but they shouldn't have to, because there's no reason that that child should be dead. Across the board, you had one reckless and malignant actor after the next. The wrong dosage prescribed, the pharmacy staff ignoring the computer warning, the child goes into cardiac arrest and they failed to intubate him, and their response was so slow that he suffered brain death from lack of oxygen. That Chen woman should be charged. All of them should be charged. Because what happened to that baby wasn't just an error. It cost that child his life. People are supposed to go to prison when that happens. And before anyone tries to claim, well, that's just too unlikely, prosecutors never go after these medical practitioners. A few years ago, a white nurse in Tennessee, whose name was ironically Redonda Vaught, very similar to that Vaughn heifer. This woman was convicted of criminally negligent homicide after giving an elderly patient the wrong medication that resulted in the patient's death. Now, the hospital's report to the medical examiner didn't mention that she gave the wrong medication. Instead, the hospital report told the medical examiner that the patient had died of natural causes. They didn't even make out a sentinel report. A sentinel report is supposed to be created whenever a patient safety event results in death, permanent, or severe temporary harm. And it's federally required, but it didn't happen in that case. Normally, these kind of things get swept under the rug, but in this case, amazingly, it didn't. Redonda was put on trial and given 3 years probation, which is a joke, but at least there was a trial and a conviction. But even this nothing burger was too much for the white media and even for the government, because the National Institutes of Health website republished an article about the Vaught case entitled Criminal Prosecution of Clinician Errors, a Setback to the Progress Towards Safe Hospital Work Environments. They actually had the nerve to republish that, and amazingly, somebody actually had the nerve to write it. So there's people apparently who think that holding medical murderers responsible for killing people is a setback of some sort. A setback to what? This is what somebody thinks makes for a safe environment, not punishing people like that? No, allowing these killers to remain on the loose, that's what makes hospitals deadly. But this is the kind of propaganda that the government signal boosts. They defend killers and criminals and then claim that punishing them makes you less safe. Kind of reminds you how the white media tried to spread hysteria after Judge Aaron Persky was successfully recalled and removed from office after he refused to punish Brock Turner. The white media said that that recall election would result in black defendants receiving harsher sentences because now judges would be terrified not to throw the book at somebody because of fear of public backlash. Of course, as I've documented for you over the years, that didn't happen at all. It was all about protecting white immunity from law. That's what the real problem was. And the same thing goes for the pathetic attempt to push hysteria about punishing medical malpractice. When someone's life and death is in your hands, or the life of your loved ones in their hands, it's not too much to ask that they pay attention. After all, these people love to brag that they're professionals. And in the case of that Vaughn degenerate in Dallas, to actually expect them to do their jobs. But you see that both the white media and the government are on the same page about covering for and protecting criminals. Ask yourself why. This wasn't just negligence. It's the typical contempt for black life that permeates the so-called healthcare industry like it does every other aspect of life in America. How many other black babies have died at that hospital and elsewhere from exactly this kind of contempt for black life? Even the babies aren't safe. What happened to DeMarcus Page makes me furious. And that racist puke in Dallas ignoring that black woman's suffering, and she's literally only minutes from giving birth, that should be a crime. This is why the black maternal and infant mortality rates are sky high, higher than any other group. It's not because of black women, it's not because of black children, it's because of anti-black racists in these hospitals. They always love to try to put it off on black people and say, well, you people are predisposed to this or predisposed to that. No, what we are predisposed to is becoming targets of racists who have been placed in every influential sector of the society. These are not failures of the system. This is the system working exactly the way it's designed. Black patients are systematically denied health care by these racist doctors and nurses. This is why both white and black patients go to the same hospitals, are seen by the same medical staff, but one of them gets treatment while the other one dies. Whether it be DeMarcus Page or Miss Jones, either of these atrocities should have been all over the news. Instead, they're ignored, except for social media. And as the black media, the incident in Dallas is particularly egregious because I've told you about how we have people who subscribe to my channel, who listen to me, people right here, people who live in Texas, and as I documented for you on this channel, their babies died because of a mess like this. And the system has been set up to deliberately deny black victims any legal recourse. The black maternal and infant mortality rates are sky high for a reason, and this is the reason why. White people tell us that these are all just a series of mistakes. No. When you keep repeating a mistake after being told about it, that's not a mistake anymore, that's a decision. And it's one that should carry consequences, severe consequences. Now, I know that my next remarks are going to kind of hit a little note, but I have to say it anyway. We have people who have pushed for laws regarding protecting black hairstyles, the so-called Crown Act. I don't have a problem with that, by the way. I'm fine with it. We know that these racist teachers in these schools mess with black children about their hair as a form of racial harassment. You had black lawmakers, particularly black female lawmakers, who were only too happy to jump in front of the cameras about that. Not facing harassment in school or the workplace over one's hair is absolutely valid. But don't you think that this is a far more important subject to have legislation about? This is why I can't stand these black politicians. And by the way, I don't mind that people call what happens to us medical apartheid, but I would say that it's kind of a misnomer. Apartheid would be if black patients got inferior health care. What happens to black people is we don't get health care at all. This is about denying black people medical care based solely on race, and that's what makes it genocide, not apartheid. There's 3 things human beings absolutely must have to survive: food, shelter, and medicine. Because everyone has to eat, everyone needs shelter from the elements, and everyone gets sick. Deny people any one of those 3 things, and you've cut their lives short. And in the case of medical care, if they're denied medicine, they die instantly. Just out of curiosity, has even one Democrat brought this up? Even one? Has Kamala Harris ever mentioned it? Did Barack Obama ever campaign on it when he was talking about Obamacare? How about Bernie Sanders, or Biden, or Jasmine Crockett, or any of them? Even one? You've got black mothers and black babies being killed every single day in these hospitals, and not one of these Democrats has proposed any legislation about it. In fact, they won't even talk about it, won't even mention it. Democrats ought to be using their positions the way that people like Trump do. Go ahead and weaponize the federal budget against these places. Hospitals where black mothers and babies die at higher rates than everybody else should be denied any sort of federal funding. But more than that, there need to be federal cases put on these people, and there also need to be every kind of federal regulator all over them. That's what's supposed to happen. Let these bastards know you're not going to be rewarded with federal money for killing black mothers and black babies. Instead, you're going to prison for it. We're going to cut you off. And how much you want to bet that if the federal government actually did that and started intentionally cutting these hospitals off for funding and made it clear to everyone the reason these guys are getting cut off is because of the outrageously high black maternal and infant mortality rates, if that was what was being said, how much you want to bet that these hospitals would suddenly find ways to stop black mothers and their babies from dying right in front of them? How much you want to bet that the next time a piece of trash like lacrista Vaughn comes along, that she would find herself getting kicked out, she probably wouldn't even get hired at all. They would all of a sudden be much more circumspect about who they put on the payroll. People like to say that reparations is too far-fetched to happen, which means that these are people who are waiting on some white folks to advocate for it first before they say anything. But what about this? What about legislation that provides protection for black patients and legal punishments and remedies for this medical genocide that we're being subjected to? Everyone else gets laws specifically for themselves. Asians got a hate crime law, even though at no time before, during, or since had Asians ever been the majority of hate crimes victims. Go back and check the stats. When you had all of that Stop Asian Hate hysteria from 2020 until Biden signed that legislation in 2021, the very next year, you look at the FBI stats and it's nothing but black people who are the majority of hate crimes victims. So where was a law for us? There wasn't one, and nobody even talked about one, not even your black politicians. I say that for the cowards and mental midgets who try to tell us that the problem is that the policies that we demand are somehow too far-fetched and too unrealistic. No, the problem is that the same way these racist white hospital personnel deliberately lie and deny us medical care is the exact same way these racist politicians lie and deny us the policies we're owed. To enact legislation to enable people and prosecutors to go after these hospital homicides, that wouldn't cost any money. Isn't the main argument against reparations that it's allegedly just too expensive? It costs too much money. Nobody's giving black folks a bunch of money. Okay, well, how about policies to punish murder? That doesn't cost anything. And yet you see the same resistance that we get when it comes to reparations. So the problem isn't the price tag. And yet you got clowns out here who tell us that we're risking our lives if we don't vote for these people who refuse to lift a finger or say a word on our behalf. These black bootlicks on TV, radio, and the internet, they know what their real job is, to whitewash anti-black racism and to never put these white politicians on the spot. Shuck and jive. Well, shucking and jiving cost black people their lives. I know that this is not going to get a lot of views because sadly black empowerment is not popular, even among black people, but we better learn to start making it popular. Whenever I post videos on this subject or anything like it, I notice that it gets a lot less people who watch it. Now, if you're one of the people who's too scared of white disapproval to stand up for reparations, then are you too scared to demand black healthcare justice? Do you have the nerve to confront these Democrats about that, starting with the black ones? If we had actual black political representation and not just some cherry-picked tethers and homegrown sellouts, then they would be stonewalling any and all legislation until this comes to the floor of Congress. You had Step and Fetch It trash in California laughing and smiling in the faces of their own black voters, mocking their own constituents, as they happily blocked a bill pertaining to reparations. Well, those same contemptuous scum are also the reason that you don't have any laws in California that would punish the lacrista Vaughns or the Dr. Chens. And yes, I do videos about the black infant and maternal mortality rates on a regular basis because it matters. And family, I also notice that when I do it, the views are lower than when I'm talking about other subjects. Yeah, I know that it's a downer, but tell me something. Do you think that saying nothing while black babies and mothers are dying is more optimistic and cheerful? Because I sure don't. The enemy relies on this trait on our part. They watch us. As Brother Khalid Muhammad pointed out, the enemy does all kinds of dirt just to see how we'll react. They're watching us to see where's the limit at? Where's the point at which black folks will finally do something? And unfortunately, when it comes to how black people are neglected to death in the healthcare system, our response is practically nothing. What do you think that teaches the enemy? That's why the number of black people killed in these death chambers that they call hospitals is so high. A cop does it, and you have a person you can point to in a specific manner of death. But if it happens in a hospital, well, that's just natural causes. But we know better. This isn't nature, it's murder, and it's deliberate. And our silence has made hospitals into free fire zones where hundreds of thousands of black lives can be snuffed out every year, and the murderers are never punished, never charged, and in most cases never even identified. These are serial killers in these hospitals. That's what they are, and in some cases the equivalents of mass murderers in these hospitals. And because their victims are black, they're being protected at every level. No other group would allow this. I know people don't like these kind of videos, which is why you need to see it. I don't do politically oriented entertainment. What I do is a witness and a warning. Too many black people have made a habit out of ignoring things until it affects them personally. The answer isn't for us to not talk about this. The answer is to get it in people's faces. These racist hospital staff, the white media, these corrupt politicians, that's how you get this mess to stop, by making it clear you're going to drag these killers out into the sunlight and that we're going to expose what they've done. Because this medical genocide is also part of why we are owed reparations. Hundreds of thousands of black people die every year in this country due to targeted, deliberate, intentional denial of health care. And those black lives shouldn't be something you can just get to snuff out for free. There has to be a cost that goes along with it, especially for this government that's known about it the whole time and has done nothing about it and said nothing about it. And if this subject matter kind of bums you out and it doesn't necessarily leave you feeling a warm fuzzy, get over it. Overlooking the targeted killing of black people in these slaughterhouses, people killing black mothers and even black babies and not getting so much as charged, that is something that should make you sick. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. BC, Turk McKenzie, TJ, Rebellious Zoe, and Craig Simmons. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.